right, hello everybody, and thank you for joining us. Oops. This is No Soundbites Allowed, and I am your host, Michael Voss, Dragon the Southern Tier. I'm happy to be here with you today. It is May 2nd. It's 7:30 at night, and I should be live on a new channel called Politics. This isn't a YouTube channel, it's not on Rumble, but it's its own platform. I believe it is going out live as we speak. I am checking for it now because I want to talk about Kamala Harris. I want to talk about what's happening at our southern border. I think it's a big deal. I think it's important that we talk about these things, but not everyone agrees. And so we need to have a conversation about that. I mean, what's happening at our southern border? I do believe I am live right now on Politics, so I do invite people to go and check it out. Let's see here. Let me see if I can show you. So that's the Politics channel right there. It should be live. I think it's just taking a moment to spool up. But as always, if this is the first time that you are seeing our channel, the first thing we want to mention to everyone is thank you and welcome to being on our audience and being part of the conversation today. We always welcome you. Normally we do our live streams on every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is a little bit special, so we wanted to try it out. In addition, we want you to know we do long-form political commentary. And we do this because we believe in the First Amendment. We believe in your right from around the world to share your thoughts about what's happening in the world, whether it's in the United States or anywhere else, and how it affects everyone. So we hope you will join us about that and having that conversation. But today we're going to be talking about what's happening in the U.S. in the southern border, about illegal immigration, about Kamala Harris, and how that's affecting the United States, and that's how it's going to affect the rest of the world. Now, you may have heard about the news today. It just came out that the Pentagon will be sending 1,500, 1,500 active duty troops, National Guard and actual U.S. military, the Marine Corps and the Army, to the United States southern border. That's because of Title 42. It's because of the migrant caravans that are coming to America. In fact, there's a caravan of over 3,000 migrants that left Mexico City about a week ago that will be coming to Texas to enter the United States. This is all timed to match with what they call Title 42. Let me explain what Title 42 is. Basically, it's a restriction that was created under the COVID policies under President Trump that restricts individuals from coming into the United States because of medical reasons. It's a way to reject people because they didn't go through the proper paperwork process and they're illegally trying to enter America, saying that they're a refugee. It's not true, it's not real, because they're just trying to get into America, as they always have been. But their excuse is, I had to leave Venezuela because Venezuela is a socialist nation that's starving its own people, that's killing its own people, where measles and mumps is rampant with a 1,000% increase since 2019, and I'm being persecuted. So I had to come to the United States. Of course, the answer from the United States is, well, you hit Mexico before you hit the United States. You were supposed to call to file as a refugee in Mexico, not the United States, besides everything else in Central America, Belize or other countries. And they say, no, but we couldn't stay there. We had to come to America, They couldn't ask for amnesty or ask for refugee status in any other country, just the United States. This is the excuse. So that's why they're coming. And we know that 5.5 million have come under President Joe Biden. And now we're going to see an increase. Even though we've been seeing as many as 200 to 250,000 illegal aliens that we have caught at the southern border of the United States during the time he has been in office, we're going to see that spike. There may be as many as 300,000 illegal aliens trying to enter into the United States each month going forward. Now, this is a very scary thought. I want you to think about that. 300,000 people. That's more than most cities in the United States. That's more than most cities around the world. That's how many people we're talking about per month that are going to be trying to get into America. And if things are consistent with what we have seen so far over the last 2 years, well, that means that we're looking at roughly 98 suspected terrorists will be trying to enter America in the next year. We would be expecting that somewhere around 900 illegal aliens will die trying to enter America through various border crossings, trying to just enter into here to break our laws. That's huge numbers. We're talking about 10 to 20,000 children coming into America by themselves, sent by their parents with caravans just to enter the United States, being subjected to sex slavers and human trafficking and drug mules. It's one of the worst cases of child abuse that we've ever seen in recorded history. It is absolutely child abuse. And so that's what's happening at our southern border right now. Child abuse, sexual slavery, drugs, fentanyl being entered into the United States at record numbers, with over 100,000 Americans dying because of drug overdoses associated to opioids and to fentanyl. This is a scary time, especially when we know that the numbers are about to spike. And that's why Joe Biden has sent 1,500 military personnel to the border, on top of all the custom border agents that we have in place already. We're adding even to that. And that's on top of the 2,500 military personnel that we have that have been down, 2,500 National Guard troops that are at the border already. These are huge numbers. Huge numbers. And this is very important. So, with all of that happening, I have to ask a simple question. Where's Kamala Harris? Where in the world is Kamala Harris? Why isn't she doing anything? She's supposed to be doing her job. She's supposed to be there. Where is she? Because we haven't seen her yet. And I don't know why we haven't seen her yet. We haven't even heard from her. And one of the reasons why I think this is such a big deal is it's not just about the illegal immigrants coming into America. It's also about people like this guy, Francisco Oropeza, which we've been hearing about over the last couple of days. This nut job decided to go and kill an entire family. He killed 5 people. He killed an 8-year-old child. Some reports say the child was 9. Doesn't really make a difference to me. He killed a child, a 9 or 8-year-old child, because there was too much noise from his neighbors. This illegal alien who has come into the United States at least 4 times that we know of. He first tried to get into the United States illegally March of 2009. Then again he came back in September of 2009. Then he came back again in January of 2012. And then he came back again in July of 2016. I want you to notice what's the consistent thing we keep seeing about this illegal alien. It was under Obama, then Biden. He didn't try this under Trump, as far as we can tell. And all the records that everyone has, he didn't enter into the United States when you had a strong leader, when we were trying to close the border, when we were trying to build up the border wall. No, he entered under Obama, who believes in open borders, under Biden, who believes in open borders, under the progressive idea that we should have open borders in the United States. Now, by the way, just for everyone to know, if you disagree with anything that I have to say, please, you can call into 607-242-9247. You can also leave comments, both here and on politics, to tell me what you think. If you think I'm misunderstanding any of the data. And by the way, 90% of all my sources come from left-leaning sources, just so you know. But if you think I'm misunderstanding this situation, please tell me. Because I truly believe the reason why Joe Biden has decided to increase the number of American military at the southern border is because, one, he knows Title 42 is going to end, then they're going to come in waves. And 2, because he wants to get reelected. But 3, and I think this one is important, it's because he's trying to hide from the fact that it's his policies, the Obama policies, the progressive policies that invited Francisco Oropeza to come into the United States illegally, to get a gun, a firearm illegally, and to use that illegal firearm while he illegally stayed in the United States to kill 5 people, including a child. And Joe Biden is trying to say he's a strong leader and to cover up the failure of his international policy, his immigration policy. Because at this point, there's just no way you can say it's not a failure. 5.5 million illegal aliens, 2.4 million in 1 year, larger than any increase we have ever seen before. More children by themselves, unaccompanied minors, as it's called by the Border Patrol, in the tens of thousands per month. We have overwhelmed the system. We have overwhelmed multiple cities along the border. It's so bad that even Eric Adams is complaining about the illegal immigration and that the fact that illegal immigrants keep coming to New York State, and he's spending $60,000 per illegal alien. This is where your taxes are going, folks. He's spending $60,000 per illegal alien to put them up into hotels, 3-star hotels in New York City, so that they can live the life of Riley. The average person in New York City doesn't make $60,000, and that's one of the richest cities in the world. Think about that. And he can't handle it. There's too many illegal aliens coming. And I think part of that's because, well, you're putting them up in hotels. They're living the life of Riley. They get maid service. They're getting a stipend to be able to live. They're being paid to be illegal aliens living in New York City and across the United States. Their kids are being sent to Tennessee and throughout New York State and the rest of the country to go to schools and to have a better life than they could have ever imagined in their own country. So yeah, they're coming and the door is wide open. We have heard from Secretary Mayorkas, the number one thing that he will not do is build a border wall to prevent illegal aliens from coming into America. How can you not say that isn't rolling out the red carpet and telling people, hey, America's wide open, just come on in? And throughout this entire process, and I'm going to get to the comment in 1 second, user, and throughout this entire process, I want people to remember something that's very, very important, okay? It was back in March 24th of 2021, Joe Biden decided to have Kamala Harris become the southern border czar, the immigration czar. It was the vice president's position to take care of immigration, to fix it, to reduce the number of people who were coming into the United States. She's been at the job 2 years. We now have more people than have ever come in 1 year under her watch. We have a migrant crisis that is escalating as we go month by month. We have the end of Title 42 and a wave of migrants, including 3,000 that just left a week ago to come into the United States. We have to send 1,500 troops on top of the 2,500 we already have at the border, and we have to send 1,500 more because Kamala Harris is on the job. Let me go to the comments. Thank you for joining us, user. User has been banned says, this seems to be by design. A 5-year-old could come up with policies better than they do for combating the issue. It just seems like their goal is to erase borders. You know, I'm hard-pressed to tell you that you're wrong, because that is exactly what we are seeing. That's exactly what they are doing. We are seeing them go out and they are literally... Let me go back. I'll show you. Again, we remember things on this channel. We go back in time. This is long form. It was April 29th, over 2 years ago, that Kamala Harris said she's working to address the root cause of the border crisis. What's the reason why these people are trying to come to America? And she said, when she was asked about details of how she's going to address the root causes of illegal immigration and illegal aliens, Harris was asked to go into detail on the administration's response to the surge of illegal immigrants because Joe Biden didn't offer a concrete plan during his address to Congress. She said to ABC's Good Morning America, quote, "I am responsible for and having been talking on the responsibility of dealing with the root causes of immigration. And here's how I think about it. Listen, when you look at the Northern Triangle, you have to ask and realize that I think most people don't want to leave home. Most people want to stay where their grandmother is. So they're leaving either because," she goes on to say, "either because they don't have the opportunity for their basic needs and or they're suffering some kind of harm." Well, that may be true, but that doesn't mean you get to break the law, which she doesn't address. So she went down, she talked about this and said, well, she has to deal with the root causes. Her answer is she wants to make Venezuela, she wants to make Guatemala and Nicaragua better countries. That's on them. That's their job. But let's assume that she's right. Let's say that if you could make Nicaragua into America, which would be amazing, then people would stay in Nicaragua. I'm sure they would, except they don't have a constitution, they don't have a stable government, and they have more corruption than Chicago. So it's not very likely. But assuming she was right, and that was the plan, and that's the problem, that you have to turn Nicaragua and Guatemala and Venezuela into America, not socialist countries, but America, that would make people stay. She failed. For 2 years, she failed. We know that for a fact. That's why we're adding troops to the border as we speak. So even if she was right about that, she failed. Hey, King Orion, how you doing? King Orion says, they infiltrated other countries' elections as a result, destabilizing them, in which that causes mass migration to the West, and how they keep those destabilized countries poor is through debt slavery. Well, that's one of the aspects of it. There's a lot to this, in that the United States wants a bunch of illegal immigrants. At least Democrats want a flow of illegal immigrants in the United States, because they constantly do the same thing they do to us. They give them a lot of promises. They don't fulfill those promises, but they give them a lot of promises that you can become a United States citizen, that you can get to live in a hotel, that your kids will get the best education possible. Some of these things they're doing, many of them aren't warranted. They tell them you're going to get free health care. Yeah, but they leave out the fact that these people will be second-class citizens, that they will be living in the shadows, that they're going to be working in sweatshops and working for drug gangs and be human trafficked. They leave those parts out because that is the direct result of what has been happening. But I want you to understand that Kamala Harris, she had a plan for 2 years that she has been supposedly working on, except I can't find it. Remember that it was 2 years ago that we had, and this is from Ted Cruz, we covered this back on, this was June 23rd of 2021. 2 years ago, we were covering this when we had all those unaccompanied children, all those people in the tinfoil, those are children. They were filling every single one of our facilities. We had overflowing, and we still have overflowing numbers of children all by themselves that were sent on 1,000, 2,000 mile treks into the United States. And the Biden administration caged them up. Now, they made the cages really nice. So instead of having chicken wire, they have clear plastic. So it doesn't look like a cage, but it's still a cage. And they had them filled. And they didn't want any of the news media to go down and see it at the border. In fact, they blocked the news media from going there. So Senator Ted Cruz had to go down. And even when Senator Ted Cruz was there, he was getting kicked out. That's the video you're seeing here. They were trying to block him from video and showing the American people the failure of the Biden-Harris administration on their immigration policy. See, we don't forget these things. We remember what was happening. Now, when we think about that, so they failed. And Kamala Harris failed. But she didn't go to the border and see those kids. Joe Biden didn't go to the border and find out about those kids. They just said, oh, well, you know what? Nobody, they're not going to go down, and you, the news media, you as an individual, could not go to the border. That was in 2021. It hasn't gotten better. Since that time, when did Kamala Harris go down to the border? Because Donald Trump went to the border, and she was embarrassed. And because she was embarrassed, that's when she decided. She was actually on with NBC News in 2021, and they asked her, when are you going to the border? She says, well, I don't know. I'll get there eventually. This is her number one job. That's her job right after the election, right after the Biden-Harris administration took over. Her number one job in March was, you have to take care of the border, and she didn't want to even go to the border. And so when she finally did go to the border, it was a week after Trump went to the border, announced that he was going to, that he announced he was going to go to the border. Then she decided to go. And then she didn't even get to the border. And did anything get improved? Did anything fix? Did she resolve anything? No. No, she didn't. Matter of fact, that's one of the reasons that by August, she had lower approval ratings, and I believe still does have lower approval ratings than Dan Quayle. Dan Quayle, a man who is lambasted, maybe properly, maybe not, for being an idiot. Dan Quayle was a joke under the original Bush administration for not being able to spell potato. He spelled it with an E. There was a whole big thing about it. This is back in the 90s. You can go, the 80s. You can look it up for yourself. It was amazing. Amazing. And he was a joke. And Kamala Harris in August of 2021 had lower approval ratings than Dan Quayle, the guy who's considered a joke. And today, the same thing still exists. And that's the problem. Because Kamala Harris, you may think she's a woman and so we can't talk about her, or she's black and we can't talk about her. I don't agree with that, because those aren't what her gender is, what the color of her skin is, doesn't take away from the fact that she has failed at her job explicitly. I mean, I've been saying this for a long time on this channel. Everywhere you send Kamala Harris, the situation only gets worse. The best thing you can do is not send her anywhere. I'm actually somewhat happy that she won't go to the southern border, because somehow she would screw it up and she would make it worse, and we'd get even more illegal aliens than we have right now. That's her track record. That's her history. Whether it's in South Korea, whether that's in the Ukraine, whether it's talking to Europe, everywhere she's gone, she's been a mess. Ghana, doesn't matter. And that's why she's considered horrible. That's why we have no idea what she's been doing. Why the news media doesn't want to even mention her name. Remember when we had the problem, we had the Tennessee trans shooter? Just for recent knowledge. And in Tennessee, when Kamala Harris went to Tennessee, did she go to see the family of the victims of the 3 9-year-olds that were killed? No. Did she go to see the family of the 3 adults that were killed by the Tennessee trans shooter? No. Did she go and speak about the problem of mass shootings, potential problem with forcing people into transitions of their bodies that may not be the best thing for them? No. What did Kamala Harris do? Kamala Harris went to Tennessee to defend a bunch of Democrats that had broken Tennessee law. She was there for politics. She was there to make sure that the Democratic Party maintained power, as much power as they had in Tennessee. That's what she cared about. That's what she went to do. She didn't care about the victims, the children, gun control, about people's safety. She didn't care about any of that. She cared about politics. And think, if that's what she's concerned about, do you really want her at the southern border? Even though that's her only job? That's the only job she has been given. And the entire time she's been in the Biden-Harris administration, she's been given one direct job: take care of the border. That's it. And she screwed that up so badly, she's busy dealing with whether or not Democrats maintain power in Tennessee. Let me go back to some of the comments, because I'm not forgetting you guys, sorry. But I am paying attention, and I am looking over at politics too to see if it's coming up, and to also look for any comments from anyone there. So please do let me know if you're on politics and you're commenting. But King Orion says, look up the International Monetary Fund and World Bank. Those organizations keep destabilizing countries in debt and continued cycle of poverty and war. It's the same game the Soviets played. Well, the World Economic Fund and the International Monetary Fund are not really, they're not organizations known for being good guys. They have a very socialist intent, and we have seen that they have been counterproductive over and over again. So I agree with you, King Orion. User has been banned mentions, and now China is playing too. Just throw money at dictators who will make their people work in the mines and the fields. You're speaking in particular about what's happening in Africa in terms of getting the lithium and the heavy metals necessary for green energy. And yeah, China's made those deals. And the same thing about what they're doing, or they're planning to do in Brazil under President Lula and South America. Again, these are all things that Kamala Harris could have circumvented. She could be talking to South America now and making stronger deals for green energy, the heavy metals that we need, resources that America needs. She could be having those negotiations, building up those countries like some of the oil reserves down in Venezuela. She could be working on that to improve the country, improve their economy, create jobs for those people, get everything stabilized so they don't need to leave and come to America. You would think it would be that simple. If she's doing her job and she's talking about the roots of immigration, the reason why people are illegal is because they don't have a job, talk to Venezuela. They have oil. Stabilize that country, develop their oil, let people work in the oil fields. They'll have great paying jobs and they won't have to leave. How about getting people vaccinations for mumps and measles, and then those people won't have to leave for medical help. If the nation's doing better, they'll be able to afford food, so they won't have to leave. The people won't be starving. If she's doing her job, these are the things we would expect her to do. But it doesn't seem like she's doing her job. King Orion mentions, want to know why the establishment supports mass migration? Because a lot of establishments are behind human trafficking, so closing the borders would ruin their sick business. Well, you know what? That's a good question, because we do see that that's a problem. A lot of countries, it is Mexico, as a great example. Mexico loves having illegal aliens enter the United States because it's less of a problem for them. They don't have to deal with it anymore. If all their people are trying to go into America and they're living off of America, Mexico doesn't have to pay for the poverty. They don't have to take care of trying to feed these people. They don't have to worry about trying to house these people. They don't have to worry about making sure these people have jobs or to limit the number of people who are going into gangs. They're all going to America. It's America's problem. And you hear the same answer from Nicaragua and Guatemala and Venezuela. Many of these countries, they want you to be an illegal immigrant. They want people. That's why they don't try and give anyone refugee status. That's why they let them walk through their countries so that they can go to America, because they don't want them to stop and say, well, no, you know what? I like Belize. Let me stay here. I want to stay in Central America. No, keep going. Go to America. They want them to leave. And if you're talking about the root causes of immigration, which is the big thing from Biden Harris and from Kamala Harris herself, that's one of the things you have to deal with. The corruption of these countries saying, well, the best answer to reduce our poverty level is to send all the poor people to America. Deal with that. That's corruption. But you notice you've never heard her say anything about that. You've never seen her do anything about that. So she doesn't seem to be very serious. Not when she has to be coerced. She has to be embarrassed into actually going to the southern border. The one time she went to the southern border is because President Trump was going there, and she was embarrassed. That's it. She's been to one meeting to talk about the southern border. That's it. What else is she doing? It's not like she's busy. I showed that recently in a short that I had. Do I have it up here? I thought I did. No. One of my short videos, one of my political shorts, just showed she's not doing anything except running around telling people that they should re-elect Joe Biden. She's actually not doing anything about the southern border. She's not doing anything about mass shootings. She's not trying to protect kids in schools. She's not trying to improve trade for green energy. No, she's going state to state to state saying, Joe Biden's doing great. You should re-elect him. That's it. I'm sorry. She has more responsibility than that, and she should be doing better than that. Whether you like her or not, whether you're a Democrat or not, what she's doing is a failure. Let me go back to some of the comments. James, thank you for being here with us. Just can't believe nothing is being done about the homeless. It's getting worse by the day. Yet another thing that Kamala Harris has free time to deal with. Okay, Joe Biden, let's assume Joe Biden's busy with God knows what Joe Biden's busy with. He's not very effective either. But she's not doing anything. If she's not dealing with the southern border, which is her job, her one and only job, then she could at least deal with the homeless problem. She could do something instead of just politicking, just trying to keep power. That's all she's concerned with. In Tennessee and right now running through the states of America, she's worried about maintaining power, about being reelected. She has nothing. She's not doing anything to give people a reason to vote for her and Joe Biden. The very least she could do is deal with the homeless problem, but she doesn't want to do that. Now, I don't usually quote this, and I'm going to get to your comment, King Orion, in 1 second, but I do want to quote Fox News. I almost never quote them, but they're the only ones who have this article from December 19th of 2022. See, it was interesting because at the time, the White House could not figure out what Kamala Harris is doing. When the White House was asked by Peter Doocy, what is Kamala Harris doing about the southern border? What is she doing about the root cause of mass illegal immigration on our southern border? Her answer, the White House, the answer from the press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, is, I don't have anything to lay out specifically on what that looks like. She has no idea what this woman is doing. The White House, officially in December of 2022, couldn't tell you what she's doing. They have no idea what is going on. And like I said, if anyone else had covered this, I'd be happy to quote them, but the rest of the major media has ignored this story. They won't even show you the story. They won't talk about this. Why are they protecting Kamala Harris? Because they're protecting Joe Biden. Because they're trying to protect the 2024 election, which means they gave up on every town and city and state that is on the border. They have given up on the American people. They have given up on our Constitution and our laws. They are more than happy to have open borders and let everyone just flood on in using your tax dollars, using your property, your rights to give it away to someone else. And I want you to remember that this isn't just costing Americans. It's not just that it's hurting Americans. Over 800 migrants. This is coming from KPBS, local news station KPBS, which I believe is left-leaning, and the Associated Press. Migrant deaths in San Diego are the latest example of how deadly the border has become. The border is becoming more and more violent. This is coming from the Associated Press. This is from California News. And in there, they're mentioning 800 illegal aliens. They love to call them migrants. They're not migrants. They're illegal aliens. It's a legal term. That is the proper term. They are breaking the law. They're criminals. 800 criminals died attempting to cross the southern border illegally in fiscal year 2022. That is an increase. And that number is up since 2019. So Kamala Harris, in failing to do her job, in the Biden-Harris administration, in failing to take care of the immigration crisis at our southern border, to deal with these caravans, to protect children, they are harming children, they are harming illegal aliens who are dying in our deserts. They're dying crossing the border. They are harming those foreign nationals as well as American citizens. Again, not just because of, well, not just American citizens, but everyone. I mean, even when we're talking about Oropeza. Oropeza killed a bunch of illegal aliens. I don't care that he killed illegal aliens in America. I care that he killed people in America. He killed a 9-year-old. I don't care if that 9-year-old was an illegal alien or not. He killed a 9-year-old, and he shouldn't have been in our country. He got kicked out 4 other times. He's not supposed to be here. The gun control failed. Yet another thing that Kamala Harris supposedly, if she was serious, she could be doing something about this. She failed. Because this illegal alien, this criminal for breaking the law, for coming into America for the 4th, 5th time in a row, he came into America, then he got a weapon, which he is not legally capable of doing. He couldn't register the gun. He couldn't legally buy the gun. He's a criminal. So he's a criminal twice just for entering the nation and then getting a gun. And then he's also killing people and children. Do I care if those were illegals? No. But this is directly because Kamala Harris hasn't done her job, and she wants to be reelected. She wants Joe Biden to be reelected because Joe Biden hasn't fired her and he hasn't done the job himself. Am I wrong? Again, anyone who thinks I'm wrong, 607-242-9247. You can call in and say, Mike, you just misunderstand. You're missing the facts. Because I'm looking for the facts from the Associated Press, from CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times, BBC, Guardian. I'm looking around the world. I'm looking for any news agency that can tell me what Kamala Harris is doing instead of taking care of the southern border. I'm looking around the world to see anybody who says, hey, we just saw Kamala Harris doing her job on immigration. Or maybe she's doing extra work, trying to work on gun control. Or maybe she's trying to work on crime or homelessness. I don't care what it is. I don't see anyone reporting anywhere in the world that she's actually doing anything besides politicking. And it is hurting people economically and physically. And the ultimate expression of that is Francisco Oropeza, who killed people because Kamala Harris failed her job. And nobody wants to call her out for that. Because she's a woman, because she's a woman of color, sometimes she's black, sometimes she's Indian, but whatever you want to describe her as, she's a failure. And I'm not afraid to say it, because it's the truth. It is empirically the truth. And I don't care what your preference is on sexuality. I don't care what your political preference is. It is empirical that she has failed and continues to fail, and it is hurting our nation and other nations and people from everywhere around the world. If you think I'm wrong, I am happy to hear this. If there is a Democrat elected in office anywhere in America, I will give you as much time as you need to speak to tell me why I'm wrong. If there is a candidate, a Democrat or a progressive, anywhere in America for any elected office that would like to tell me that I am wrong and explain how I misunderstand this, I will give you as much time as you need. Call in. It's funny how this is always silenced. How every time, year after year, month after month, week after week, I ask these questions and I ask for the other side to respond to this, and they never do. They'll talk to me privately. They'll talk to me in person. They have my phone number. I've been doing this for 17 years. They will talk to me. I know they watch these programs. I know their staff watch this program. They listen in to hear if I'm talking about them specifically or a program or policy that they're working on. I know they listen in. So they know this is happening. People like Josh Riley, someone who has my phone number, who I've known for 7 years. I know you're watching the program, Josh. You're running for the New York 19th District as a Democrat. You think I'm wrong? Tell me why. Take a stance. Tell us why Kamala Harris is doing a good job. But we don't hear answers from that. So let me go back to some of the comments. King Orion says, the solution to all of this is abolishing the CIA, the military-industrial complex, puppet news organizations, and the NSA. These agencies are the root of why people fled the U.S. and Europe. Now, King Orion, and then he adds in also the FBI. Well, and I know James Lucid also agrees and also suggests the Department of Education. I disagree with you, gentlemen, somewhat, and let me explain what I mean. The cause of illegal immigration isn't these organizations. They may allow it to happen. They may help it to happen, but they're not the reason why people are doing it. I mean, I understand. And Kamala Harris isn't necessarily wrong. The root cause is economic, that people are coming to America because we're a great country. I know they're confused. I know the progressives have a horrible time with this because they're looking at this and they go, well, America's horrible. It's a terrible country, but millions of people are illegally coming here every year. We had 5.5 million people trying to get in the last 2 years. America is such a terrible country that 5.5 million people wanted to become criminals just to enter our country. So the progressives can understand that. I do. America is a great country because we have the opportunity of freedom, freedom of speech, freedom of opportunity to become a success. You have more, the quality of life is significantly higher than almost anywhere else in the world. And you couple the economic freedom with the personal liberty and freedom, and you add into that the quality of life. Even if you are an illegal alien hiding in the shadows, you're still going to make more money in America than 50% of the rest of the world, period. That's someone, whether you're working in a sweatshop or just begging on the streets, you'll make more money in America than 50% of the world makes every day. That's a fact. So that's why they're coming. So I understand that. But the FBI, the CIA, the Department of Energy, not the Department of Education, the Department of Energy, the news organization, left-leaning news media, they're just happy that it's happening. Because the more that we have these illegal aliens, the more they hope America will lean towards socialism, more free stuff, and it will destabilize the nation because we spend more money. We have more inflation. Our money is worth less. We become closer to becoming a third world nation the more illegal aliens we allow to flood and that we try to take care of. Because we have to take care of their medical needs. That's part of Obamacare. We take care of illegal aliens. That's part of the health reforms that have been done, the bail reforms that have been done, that keeps them out of jails, but yet allowed to be able to commit crimes. That we help them to get food. We take their kids into our schools, overcrowding our schools and putting more burden on our teachers. Again, it's all against our system. It weighs everything down and it helps it to break, which ultimately is what they want. I mean, what did BLM tell us? BLM said it directly. They want to change America. They want to fundamentally break America and turn it into a socialist nation. The creator, Patrice Cullors, said to CBS News that she created BLM to introduce socialism to black people. That the whole purpose wasn't to make people more free. It wasn't to make sure that they were getting their rights. It's to make them socialists. The Democratic Socialists of America, who back Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Bernie Sanders, they have the same principle. They want to become a socialist nation. They want to break America as it exists. They've told us as much. And don't misunderstand, Kamala Harris is as progressive as Hakeem Jeffries or Cori Bush or Anna Presley, as much as Ilhan Omar. So they don't want to fix America. They don't want to even fix the problems. They just want more problems. Because the more that you are, the more problems and the more issues it creates, more inflation it creates, the more problems in schools that it creates, the more problems with crime that it creates, the more people will turn around and say, do something. That's what they want. For people to say, do something, not to say do something effective, not to say do something efficient, not to say fix the problem. Whatever you do, resolve this. That's not what people are asking for. They're just saying do something, anything. Show me that you're doing anything at all. And that's why these politicians put up these stupid laws and say, well, okay, I'll do something. I'll make all the illegal alien citizens. That's not a reason not to come to America. To tell them that they're going to get, that you're going to promise to give them, that they're going to be guaranteed to become American citizens and have a better life for breaking the law, that's not a reason not to come to America. That's a reason to come here. That's an invitation in. And the more that they say they want to give these people more and more stuff, to put them into hotels, 3-star hotels, and the more that you're giving them money and giving them education, giving them a place to stay, the more people are going to come. It just makes sense. I mean, if you walk out your door tomorrow and someone is saying, okay, if you walk around the block, I'll give you $5. You'll walk around the block a couple dozen times. Just get the money. Get the money. And Kamala Harris knows this, which is why she's not actually doing anything. Because if she did anything, then that would actually reduce the burden. It would make America less of a problem. People wouldn't say do something as much, which means they wouldn't be as dependent on the government, which means they might not vote Democrat, and therefore she'd lose power. That's what I truly believe. I believe it's part of, this is all political. The more people are struggling, the more illegal aliens there are, the more problems because of illegal aliens like Francisco Oropeza, the more people are going to ask for government to step in, which means you got to vote her. You have to re-elect her over and over again. She gets to maintain power. This, I think, is what she's planning, and I think this is what she was thinking. King Orion says, it's even documented as well. Even the former director of the CIA, Mike Pompeo, goes on the record and talks about how they taught the CIA to lie, cheat, and steal. These agencies have real power. Oh, no doubt. They do have a lot of power. But I can tell you that it's not just there. This is political in that, again, they want the problem. because having the problem means people depend on the government, and therefore you can't vote them out. That's why Kamala Harris, she didn't go to San Diego and say, there's been 800 dead bodies from illegal aliens. We should do something about that. You've never heard her say that. You don't see her going to San Diego or Texas or New Mexico to do something about that. She's not even talking about New York and the fact that Eric Adams, a progressive, she won't even talk about his complaints about illegal aliens and the $1 billion it's costing New York City for the illegal aliens there. And they have about as many illegal aliens as Texas gets in 1 month. So it's pretty clear that she doesn't care. That's the big lie the news media wants you to believe. Kamala Harris cares. Joe Biden cares. Then why don't they go to the border? Why don't they actually have a solution? Why aren't they fixing anything? If they actually cared, we either would have had 1,500 National Guard troops, the military, on the southern border back in February of 2021, or they'd be going there now to fix the problem, to give a solution. But instead, they have waited, they're wasting time, and they're saying, let's keep doing the same thing. It'll eventually work. Maybe. I'm telling you, this is insane. It drives me nuts. Now, the one thing I do have to give credit where credit is due. Kamala Harris, in February of 2023, she did in fact get a couple of she raised about $1 billion for companies doing business in Central America. This is from the New York Times, February 6th of 2023. 3 months ago. And she had Nestle, Target, Columbia Sportswear. They all said they would spend about $1 billion in Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador to create jobs. They didn't say when they would create the jobs. They didn't say what kind of jobs they were going to create. But they said they would spend $1 billion between them to be able to build up jobs. That sounds great. When does it happen? We don't know. See, that's the problem. They gave an empty promise. We'll create something sooner or later, eventually. That doesn't help the problem now. But I thought this is the thing that really caught me about this. But we have Kamala Harris's aides, the White House, the administration, said that the program had already generated results. That Kamala Harris, her root causes of immigration, of illegal immigration, that her plan that she's been working on for the last 2 years has already generated results. I want to show you this. I'm highlighting this, okay? This is from the New York Times in February. It already generated results. Continuing, though the same Biden-Harris administration officials acknowledged on the call with the reporters, they can't specifically document the effects. They can't prove it. Trust them. They are telling, this is important, and it's right in the middle of the article, so you wouldn't even notice it if you're reading through quickly. The New York Times is really famous for this. They dropped the important part in the middle of nothing, of gibberish, stuff that means nothing to you. Yeah. Nestle said they're going to give $1 billion to El Salvador. Fantastic. Don't know when it's going to happen. Don't care. But in the middle of their whole diatribe here, but this is working. Kamala Harris's idea to deal with the root cause of migration, poverty, corruption, climate change, political instability, is effective. It's already working. I just can't show you any proof. And when I see that kind of statement, I have to say to myself, well, I can show you proof. I can show you the 5.5 million people that are trying to enter the United States, 2.4 million in 1 year, a record high amount. We can point to the children that are being shipped all across America at midnight on private planes so that the American people don't notice the fact that we're shuffling kids throughout America because they're all by themselves. I can point to Eric Adams in New York City, who is screaming at the top of his lungs that he can't afford the $1 billion it costs to take care of the illegal aliens that he's putting into three-star hotels. I can point to Oropeza, Francisco Oropeza. I can point to him and say, if you were doing your job, Kamala Harris, if the roots of illegal immigration, the root causes, if you were addressing that, if it was actually successful, Francisco Oropeza wouldn't be in America, and there would be 4 adults and 1 9-year-old that would be alive today if you were doing your job, Kamala Harris. But she's not. But I don't want you to think I'm being unfair. By the way, I went over this, and if you just want the news media version of this in a minute and a half, you can go over to Rumble, and you'll be able to see my video there. It's 1 minute and 37 seconds. It's about as long as your nightly newscast trying to tell you about this. You can go there and see the same thing in a minute and 37 seconds. It leaves out a lot, but then again, it's only a minute and 37 seconds. But you know what? I decided to be as fair as I possibly could. So I went over and I decided to ask, because maybe I missed something. I don't have access to all of the internet. I don't have the ability to read everything in the internet all at once. So I went over to ChatGPT, to the AI that is plugged into the internet, that can read everything, more information than the Library of Alexandria. It can read everything about Kamala Harris that has ever been written. And I asked it the simple question, as you see on the screen: what has Kamala Harris done about illegal immigration? Here's the verbatim, word for word, what they say. As the Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris has played a role in addressing illegal immigration. What role? I don't know. She was hired as the czar to take care of the southern border. Let me go on. The ChatGPT says, since taking office, she's taken several actions to address the root causes of illegal immigration. Whoa, what happened? Sorry about that. The root causes of illegal immigration and to improve conditions for migrants. Well, yeah, she was made the southern border czar. She's the immigration czar. She's supposed to take care of that. Yes, that's her job. What did she do? One of her first actions was to work with the Northern Triangle countries of Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador. Remember I mentioned she went to one meeting? Just one meeting? Yeah, that was the one meeting in 2021. And she's speaking to Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador to address the root causes of migration, of illegal immigration, from those countries. Okay, and what was the result? What did she do? Going on, she has also worked to address corruption, violence, and poverty in those countries, which are key drivers of illegal immigration. Yes, you haven't answered my question. What did she do? In addition, Vice President Harris has worked to improve conditions for migrants who are already in the United States. She wants to make them citizens. Okay. She has visited several border facilities. No, she visited one, not several. She went to one and met with migrants and advocates to understand their needs and concerns. She spoke to four people on camera in a photo op once. That's okay. Going on. She also has worked to expedite the process of asylum claims and to increase funding from immigration courts. However, it's worth noting that immigration policy in the United States is complex and involves multiple agencies and levels of government. The vice president's role is primarily advisory, so this is the excuse. But it's her job, but she's not really expected to do anything. The vice president's role is primarily advisory, and any significant policy changes will require the support of Congress and the president. So she's just a face. She isn't expected to do anything. She's doing her job by not doing anything. That's what ChatGPT just told you. That's what it says on the screen right now. That Kamala Harris is useless and she's not supposed to get anything done. She's just there to make you feel like something's happening, to be able to say, do something, so she can say, I did something, and that's it. She had one meeting in 2021, and she was forced to go to the border because she got embarrassed by President Trump. She doesn't care about the kids that die there. She doesn't care about the illegal immigrants. She doesn't care about the overcrowding of kids in cages. She doesn't care about the impact on inflation. She doesn't care about Nicaragua, Guatemala, Honduras, or El Salvador. She doesn't care, which is why she's perfectly happy running around the United States trying to tell people, but you should vote for Biden in 2024. Because they're not doing anything, and that's all they ever expected from her, that she's completely useless. Now, I did also want to check with you, and I'll do this live. Here is Gipper. Gipper is the conservative AI program, and I'm going to ask it the same question I just asked ChatGPT. What has Kamala Harris done about illegal immigration? And, well, here's a simple one paragraph. ChatGPT had 4 paragraphs saying almost nothing. And we can see Gipper says it in 1 paragraph. It mentions that as a right conservative AI, so it tells us there's a political bias. Not that ChatGPT doesn't have a political bias. It's left-leaning because it's made by Silicon Valley. It's part of its funding is from Microsoft. Part of it is from Google. So it's left-leaning. But ChatGPT's at least honest to tell you it's right-leaning. Okay. And they say, I find Vice President Kamala Harris's handling of illegal immigration, notice actually calls it what it is, to be extremely lacking. During her visit to the United States-Mexico border, she failed to provide any meaningful solutions to solve the ongoing crisis or provide resources to law enforcement on the border. Further, she and current administration have made it clear they prioritize open borders and amnesty for illegal immigrants over the safety and security of American citizens. Their policies invite mass influxes of illegal immigrants, making it more difficult for hardworking legal immigrants, people we ask to be in America, to receive the resources and support they need. You know what? Those are the 2 AIs that can search the entire internet. They're tapped into every single meme and tweet and article that has been written around the world about Kamala Harris. And the one thing both AIs agree, whether it's left-leaning or right-leaning, is Kamala Harris is doing nothing. That she has accomplished nothing. That she has failed in the only job she actually was given, the only job that she actually was publicly lauded for, the one thing that Joe Biden stepped up and said, this is what Kamala Harris will do, and she will prove to you how great she is. And she failed. That's it. It's just that simple. Kamala Harris is a failure. And even AIs programmed with a left-leaning socialist bent, like ChatGPT, even they can tell you Kamala Harris has failed. She is a failure at every level. And because she is a failure, we have people we have people like Francisco Oropeza killing people on American soil, killing children. It's such a big failure that we have to send in an extra 1,500 active duty Marines to secure our border to join the 2,500 Marines and Army and National Guard that are protecting our border right now. That's how much of a failure Kamala Harris is. And the only answer that I always get from the left about this is, well, you're sexist. You're a sexist and a racist because Kamala Harris is maybe black, maybe Indian. She's definitely a woman of color, we think. She's a woman, we believe, because, we're not biologists, so we think she's a woman, and we think she's a woman of color, of some color. And so that means that to criticize her work is to be racist or sexist. Guess what? That's crap. They've got no answer. Even their AIs can't save her. But let me ask you, do you think I've got it wrong? We've heard from King Orion. We've heard from James Lucid. I believe this has been published on Politics. It should be up and playing there. I think it is. Let me know what you think. Is Kamala Harris living up to what you expect? Is this what you consider to be a success in dealing with immigration policy? Do you think it's going to get better when Title 42 goes away and we have an even bigger surge? Do you think Kamala Harris is actually going to go to the border and fix this? I'll make it even simpler. Do you think Kamala Harris will go back to the border? Let me leave it there. Oh, I misspelled her name. I don't care. Kamala Harris. Do you think Kamala Harris will go back to the southern border in 2023? Or do you think she will ignore the border, ignore the dead bodies, ignore the children that have been abused and sent by themselves 1,000 miles away from their home and their families? Do you think she will ignore the human trafficking that are putting women into sex slavery? Do you think she's going to ignore that? Or do you think she's actually going to go to the border and do her job for the first time since 2021? I don't think she's going to do her job. But folks, I wanted to get this off my chest. And again, I do want to mention to you that if you've not had the chance, please go down to Politics. That's politix.tv. It is a new channel for political junkies like myself to be able to speak out without fear of Facebook, without fear of Twitter or YouTube and Google, without worrying about their algorithms and punishing us and threatening to silence our voices for daring to say that Kamala Harris is a failure, that Kamala Harris failed the American people and failed the only job she has been given as vice president. I hope you check it out. I hope it grows. And I look forward to talking to you on Sunday at our regularly scheduled live stream at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we will talk about this and many other issues going forward. Until the next time, folks, I thank you for taking some time on your Tuesday night to share with me, to talk about this issue. I look forward to seeing your comments, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon. Thank you.